Welcome to the Stories That Sparkle. I'm Hella Rader. This is the last installment, the last part, the last episode of the Becoming the Proof series, featuring 4 women who built the thing they needed to ensure it exists for others when they need it. And wow, what a journey it has been, because this is my first ever series of the podcast. It came together actually after the fact. I recorded these 4 conversations and then discovered it was a series and then reordered them, which is why this conversation with Cree comes at the end, even though it was the first one I recorded, which actually really truly is in keeping with what comes up in this conversation with Cree, because she actually talks about this very thing, how you may not have the words for it yet, but when you look back, you can see that you've been building that thing all along. I mean, total mind blown situation, y'all. And as per usual, not only did I hear the things I needed to hear at the time when we recorded this conversation, but certainly since then, it really helped me put a lot of different things into place and gave me the language I needed for a lot of different things, including Becoming the Proof series. So yeah, I mean, this whole thing is a total infinity swirl, y'all. I mean, literally above my head while recording with Cree, there's a disco ball. That's how I always know when I have found my people, is when there's a disco ball suspended in air in their happy places. Okay. Just saying, like, those are my people. Okay. So Cree is definitely my people. She's a professor in the Graduate Communications Design Program at Pratt Institute in New York City. She's also the founder and CEO of Messwork, a somatic practice where she works with clients one-on-one. And she helps practitioners, creatives, entrepreneurs in the alternative health sector build their practices. And that's just the beginning, y'all. So yeah, when I realized I was building a series, before I knew I was building a series, it was an obvious no-brainer that my conversation with Cree would be the closing thought of the series. So without further ado, I invite you to get comfortable, sit back, and listen in. For the woman who feels all alone in it, whatever it is for her right now, the Stories That Sparkle podcast is a series of long-form, intimate conversations with women you have never heard of and could easily pass on the street, in which they share the often messy truth about navigating grief, starting over, reclaiming their voices, inhabiting their bodies, and building community. Welcome to our Disco Ball, the Stories That Sparkle. Hi, Cree.
Hi.
Eee! It's very exciting.
Very. Glad to be here.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah. So y'all, I'm just gonna set the scene slightly. We're in a very well-lit, natural light, like just natural light bonanza in here. There's also a disco ball.
Right above your head.
Right above my head. So, I mean, it's like it was meant to be.
Yes.
So we are somewhere in Brooklyn at the moment.
Yes.
And this is one of my exciting moments, because this is the first, let me see if this is accurate. I think so. It's the first in the current, for sure, in the current configuration of my life, recording I'm doing in New York.
Oh, amazing. I feel honored, deeply honored.
So this is very exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This is so exciting to me because, as you all know, listeners, I am now bi-longitudinal officially. So I get to do this more now in New York. And I couldn't think of a better way to start this phase of life and recording than to do it with you, Cree.
Thank you, love. It means a lot. Thank you.
So thank you. Oh, we've just been having a lovely time I've had 2 pastries.
Necessary.
I mean, that's what it's all about, is pastries. So I had asked you to join me, Cree, because I'm just incredibly fascinated by the fact that you are a professor.
I am.
So I may start calling you the prof.
Love it. Go for it.
Or, you know, maybe not, TBD, but I will really want to just call you the prof.
Okay.
Now. Okay, but for serious, you're a professor.
I am.
At Pratt, correct? And what's the domain of professoring that you do? Like, what's your field?
So my field is communication design. I teach the graduate communication design within that program, and we have a great undergrad program too. But I found out fairly quickly that I do better with slightly older humans.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Not the undergrads. So
Undergrads
much.
are lovely and amazing, but I think my skills are more naturally aligned
Right.
for a different age.
So what's communication design? Like, what does that even mean?
It's a good question. It's a question that I think everyone gets who's in the field all the time.
Oh,
because
really?
It's like, yeah, it's sort of like, I think it feels hard to enter, sort of as a title for a field. And I remember when I was training in it myself, and I would get that question all the time when I was a student of it, I decided to look it up on Wikipedia in the hopes that it would sort of synthesize things better for me and understanding even what I was doing. But I think the simplest way, or the way that I describe it when I'm asked to, is how do we use design to better communication, which is obviously an incredibly reductive way of answering that question, but I think it can involve so much, and the way that I approach it, it's multidisciplinary. It's, are we using, where are we communicating, for who, for what purpose, what are our values, what's the mission? And so to stay in sort of the larger realm of communications being facilitated by design, I think that helps at some point. I think many folks hold it as sort of like as graphic design primarily, or something that now holds graphic design, but they sort of assume that it's perhaps grounded in graphic arts exclusively, and so sometimes pedagogically, folks even approach it differently. I think some believe that it's just that, and I think there's a lot more in there.
And also part of so that's why I was like, I need to talk to her. I need to talk to her because you have a background. This is your whole world has been in design. You're a designer.
True.
Of things. Of all,
Lots of things.
And art and jewelry. It's been a journey.
Yes.
So I just find it fascinating that you've combined the design and the communicating. Like, it feels significant to me that must have been a journey.
Yes.
To get from quote unquote just designing to then teaching it, but also this combination of, wait, I'm designing and I'm communicating in my designing.
Yes.
So what's that about? Let me look into that. So
are you asking about the trajectory?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, perfect. No, there were so many questions in there, all of which I'm very happy to speak to.
I'm known for this.
Love it.
Like 5-part question in one sentence or 3.
Wonderful. Let me start with the how. I think that's exactly right. That so technically my undergraduate degree was in psychology and business. The communication part I think was baked into the psych, but not explicitly. But I had always been, making things with my hands. So I started making jewelry when I was quite young, probably 13, 15, something like that, and became fairly obsessed with it. And so decided that after I graduated that I wanted to start working in the field of jewelry, and did so professionally for quite a while. And so kind of got thrown in the deep end with fine jewelry. I was working for a fine jeweler in London, England, and jumped right in and learned a lot about a very specific, let's say, sub-aspect of the field. And so you could have considered that, or you could consider that sort of a product design entry point. But I had also been making, as I mentioned, my jewelry sort of independently, and I really knew that I wanted to start my own venture. And so I eventually left and started my own and first company, which was called Heart and Noble. And I very quickly started to explore different materialities. But when I look back on it now, I understand jewelry was just a vehicle to communicate, and that it was not so much about the object, and it was so much about the object at that time. And I think I very quickly sort of found out years after, it's like, well, is it the ring, or is it the dress, or is it the bag, or is it the coat, or is it the room, or is it the syllabus, right? That the object or the material could change, as long as what I was trying to communicate through the material was happening. And it took me a while to understand that, I think, or perhaps I understood it and it was hard to bring language to it. And so when I started looking into getting a graduate degree, again, I had run my jewelry business for about 7 years. First founded it in London, then brought it to New York, and got involved in fashion as a result, and the pieces that I made were quite large and avant-garde, and so they fell naturally into sort of music and performance spaces. I felt like there was a missing piece, which I think was the more explicit study around the communication piece. But I also, I hadn't even heard the term communication design. So when I was looking for, graduate education, it's sort of like, okay, it's not graphic design that I'm wanting to do, and it's not comms in like a PR or governance capacity, right? And so I had to do a bunch of research, and then I found a few equivalent programs that had, different names, but were sort of in that realm. And even when I applied to a bunch of places, I still sort of had the feeling of I don't exactly know what this is, but the descriptions are as close to what I think it is that I'm trying to, support myself with this extra additional knowledge. And so it felt open enough, but also specific of, what do we communicate in an image? What is copywriting? How can we learn how to write in a designerly way? And I think the difference between art and design in that way is that there, traditionally is like there's a user and there's a message that is more being sort of explicitly disseminated in a design context, where of course there's a viewer and a message and an art message, but in an art context, but the system or the structuring is a little bit different. So I think coming into an explicit comms environment helped sort of connect otherwise missing dots, let's say, or parts of the structure, even though I think intuitively I knew that that's what I was working for, but I just didn't have the language to find the thing, do the thing. And so when I found it, it sort of was like, maybe 3/4 of the house was built in my head, and then all of a sudden there was a whole structure. And so I understood how to navigate it more. I understood, where I need to spend time and energy to sort of fill out missing pieces or build skill sets that, I just hadn't been exposed to. And I think because of that, as a student originally, as a graduate student, I fell so in love with it, and it felt like such a facilitator to everything creative that I knew very quickly there that I also wanted to teach it.
Oh, that's fascinating. So like in the doing of it, in the sort of, I'm hearing like finding like, oh, this is combining all the things that are up for me essentially is another, is what I heard in there. Like I'm trying to not put it in a container, but kind of put it all together. And I don't know how to do that. Oh, this thing allows me to combine it. And then almost simultaneously, or as you're getting that framework going, I want to teach that to others. That's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it was, I think that's a big part of it. Maybe it was the container for the thing, or the language that I didn't have, or I think one of the parts that I appreciate the most is that it's very multidisciplinary, and it's, it involves all materiality that, that one might be inclined to use, as long as it can sort of be argumentatively backed up. And so I think it was, it also opened up my sense of art, my sense of design, both. But, I think if you looked at my resume, you'd go, okay, but what does fashion publishing have to do with, I don't know, styling, have to do with jewelry design? Okay, yes, maybe they all exist in an industry that's similar, but it could look sort of scatter-plotted, to say the least. But I think all of the choices that I was making, which I can only say looking back, were leading to a larger structure that I just couldn't see. And I think that's a thing that most creative people struggle with in one way or another at a time, right? Unless you do one thing really specifically, like you make one kind of sculpture and that's your whole reason for being, that I think most creatives have lots going on and don't always have the language or the container or the structure for them to sort of make sense of it differently and then be able to communicate it meaningfully to others.
Right. Yeah, this is, you're talking my language right now, because this has been exactly the journey for me more explicitly in the last year and a half, for sure. Probably, I mean, way longer than that.
Okay.
But in terms of like, I find I'm so curious about so many different things, and that manifests in, like, I like to do a podcast and I like to write, but I also like to do video editing. And I'm like, sometimes it's like, just because I can doesn't mean I should. And to your point, what am I actually, am I communicating it effectively to people out there who don't know me? I thought about this last night as I was going to sleep. Like a professor once told me that, I have a tendency to like make a statement and then jump from A to like Q. And they're like, yeah, but the people need to know how you, like
How you
the
got
step
there.
in the between.
Yes.
But in your mind, you know how you got there, and it's
Sure.
like, duh, that's why you would get to Q. And they're
Yes.
like, yeah, but not everyone's going to know that. So it's just hitting me like, oh, right, it's the communication piece of that.
Yes.
Like, how do I effectively communicate what I'm getting at, or hoping your takeaway is, or at least one of them, and then there may be others that you come up with on your own. But yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I go to A to Z fast too, and I'm sure you go to A to Q or A to Z fast. And I remember, I think the thing that's beautiful is it's about understanding how it comes across, right? And then you can make your own decision about things. So I've had several professors and mentors say, if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, then really it's not working. Sort of like that there's a way that you have to be able to filter, like, if you're making like an argument for your thesis or something, you have to be able to filter it down. If you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, one, you probably don't know exactly what you're talking about yet, or you can feel it and you know it, but the language isn't there. Or you're using language that's unnecessary or convoluted, and are we interested in delivering the message, directly, promptly, like the letter is going in the mailbox? And then obviously sometimes we make decisions where we're wanting to interrupt that for creative purposes. But yeah, there's something around being direct or simplicity, and understanding, where we get in our own way unintentionally, and then being able to disrupt or play with that if and when we wish.
Right. But I do also appreciate, like, it's okay, quote unquote, it's okay to be, have your hands in all kinds of different
Yes.
areas or tools or mediums.
Yes.
And they can still communicate effectively together. Like, what if you amalgam, because I think that's such a hard thing.
Yes.
Like, I can't, if you told me like I could only do one thing, I would be like, I'm sorry, I'll go home now.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't do it. I don't think. Some part of me would be very upset.
I agree. I identify with that statement heavily. And I think even when I think of colleagues, I was speaking to a colleague the other day who was sort of starting to redefine themselves as like, these are the 40 things that I do in any given week. And in the past, people have found it very difficult to understand what it is, but it doesn't matter because it's all of these things. Like, I am a painter, I'm a philosopher, I'm a mentor, I'm a teacher, I'm a lecturer, I'm a coder, right? All of those things. And so, not that we always need a container, but I think for people who are, I kind of, the word multi-potentialite wants to come in here, and I don't totally love it, but where there's the multiplicity of a person and their interests, and they're able to house them in a way that isn't fragmented, and you want to help them with that structure. And I think that's something that I feel often with my students who are, super intelligent, and they're grappling with, hundreds, if not more things, and it's like, well, how do we bring them to the ground, and how do they relate, and what system might they live in, or what structure might they live in? And it, I think, gives all of us some support and permission to do all the things, and maybe when it's necessary or appropriate, help people understand what that is, and also come to a time where we don't feel like we have to defend that complexity or that those multitudes.
Right. Ooh, I love that. Like, just be it, do it, own it,
do all the things.
Don't explain it or defend it. I love that. Yeah, there's a slogan I like to, I've been handed to me many times. I don't need to justify, argue, defend, or explain.
Beautiful. Yes. Unless you're in thesis, and then you do have to do all those
okay.
things. But no, not argue. Maybe but it's that's beautiful. I love that.
Making, like, I feel like it's like making peace with it myself first.
Sure.
And then being able to just stand in it. Yeah.
The ownership piece. Yeah.
Huh, I love that. So I also heard in there, because I know that you also have a practice.
I do.
Separate from, so you have y'all, Cree is a prof. She's also works with people one-on-one separately, not students specifically.
Correct.
This is separate from academia. And you have your own practice called Messwork.
That's right. I do.
Yeah. Because I heard in there, like, this idea of like, giving people tools to work with all these different parts or interests or curiosities and complexities. So how do those two things blend you've got your students on the one hand over here in your academia land prof world.
Yep.
And then you're working with clients one-on-one. I imagine there's lots of
Yes.
crossing over in terms of the, energetically, or like the vibes.
Yeah.
That's the best word I can come up with, the vibes.
Love the vibes. And I also love that you're making an infinity
Yes.
with your hand, which is what I draw all the time.
Oh my God,
there's a
really?
way, yeah, there's a way that for me they feed into each other.
Yeah, that's felt very
Yeah.
like there's like a flowing back and forth. Yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah, I was making
Yes.
an infinity symbol.
We're now both doing
in the air with my hands.
Yeah,
I do
you're
talk
correct.
with my hands a lot.
So
It's
do I. Beautiful.
interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, I think if I zoom out, if I zoom way out, it's that in a way, working with clients one-on-one in a psychosomatic realm with mess work is not dissimilar than working with graduate thesis students, and that I believe that, thesis is where I spend most of my time. I teach other classes at Pratt too, but I'm the affinity lead there, so I sort of lead that arc and facilitate. And I'm particularly interested in that work with graduate students because for the most part, not always, but thesis work is usually life work in some sort of way, even if they don't know it yet, right? Like they're grappling with some problem that, even if it doesn't present as highly personal, usually ends up touching something highly personal. And so there's a way that in me, it makes sense that the way that I would facilitate a client through mess work through their life, I'm facilitating a student through their creative life, which also impacts their life. So there's that parallel that's there. Obviously, the way that I bring myself forward to a student and to a client are incredibly different
Sure.
because of boundaries and infrastructure, context, place, all of that. But I do think that there are these very direct parallels where it's about facilitating them in their growth, facilitating them in being who they are authentically, unapologetically. And so there's some things that feel similar in me, although I'm sure they don't feel similar in both domains, at least to those folks. But I believe in some ways they have similar outputs, you know what I mean? They're similar impacts. So I think, and that's where I guess like through the practice and the pedagogy, let's say, then research comes in. So I think for me, part of my research is how do these things relate under what my larger inquiry is, right? And then where does research happen? In a way, you know, when you're with clients, there's like live research happening in front of you because people are sharing themselves with you and you are with them. And then I have a sort of a research practice that is technically being held more in the institutional context just because I can ethically work it there. But I think the simplest way that I can speak to their connection is there are two kinds of service in realms that I'm deeply interested in, which involve the psyche, creativity, how those things naturally want to work together and how they can be barriers to each other, and finding ways that are appropriate in each context to create, liberation so that we're able to be in our creativity fully and see how it impacts our lives and hopefully the lives of others as a result for the better.
I heard the word that really stood out, service. Like this is your service.
Yes.
Like acts of service, basically. Also, it sounds like to yourself.
Totally.
Like this is serving
Yes.
this energy within yourself to inquire
Yes.
and research and then pass it on.
Yes.
Basically through teaching or helping others, whether in your one-on-one client practice or in your pedagogy, to access it for themselves.
Yes.
Wow.
I feel I appreciate you reflecting that piece back to me because it's, I think it's very easy to say like, oh, I'm in an industry of service and there can be maybe a self-righteousness around that and we forget that it is hugely impactful and meaningful to the people doing it. And so I think in both scenarios, without sounding sort of trite, I am constantly humbled and honored by what comes through, even if it's, being able to shepherd a student's work or a mentorship comes about or they create this like miraculous, book after 2 years and you get to be the one who has had any part of that, right? And the same thing or the equivalent with being there during the difficult moment with a client or the beautiful moment that it's easy to overlook. Like those are you're there for life markers with people and that's, significant.
Wow, that's pretty incredible.
I think so. That's why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I feel very fortunate.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, but I'm like, wow, like it just reminds me, like it just gives me hope for humanity.
Aw, Me too.
You know, because
Through
it's
the
really
internet,
like
me
the other
too.
day I was walking through Nolita or
Yeah.
somewhere, and there's like a photo booth.
Yeah.
There's
Cool.
another photo booth. Like, you know, I'm like, and you know, the person I was with, we were kind of having a chuckle. Like, man, photo booth, duh, that was our heyday.
Yeah.
Back in the '90s,
Yeah.
when there were no phones, like everything was a photo booth essentially. And we were like, wow, that's brilliant. And I was like, but that just tells me that people want to have people experiences and be in places
Yes.
and be together and have the experience of taking this picture together in person and then have a thing at the end of it that they leave the photo booth with, which
Yes.
made me feel great, very great hope for humanity, the photo booth.
Well, I have to tell you a totally crazy thing, because this morning at 8 a.m. I was in a photo booth.
What?
And you are sitting next to photos of me that I took for myself this morning at 8 a.m. in a photo booth right next to you, at the table next to you, which is wild. So that's funny that you're bringing that in.
Totally wild.
Yes, I had a friend in from out of town, and I decided to give myself a staycation at a hotel that had a photo booth in it. And I thought, you know what, I've learned something about myself this weekend, and I'm going to pop in. And so I popped into this photo booth at 8 in the morning before leaving to come back to have some client sessions and see you. And so, yes, there is something about the physicality of the thing and the sound and the sitting. And did you ever have those ones where you have to spin the stool up so it gets high enough so that the eye line is correct?
That's right.
So
that's right.
There's this little ritual spin and procedure to be at the eye line, and then inevitably you always fuck up one because you blink or like it's too fast or the thing. But there's something about like the physicality of it. Yes.
Yeah, I have some pictures, photo booth pictures of my parents.
Oh, amazing.
Which is like bonkers pants wild. I'm like, oh my God, they were so cute. They're so cute. But anyway, I digress.
Well, it was a fun digress.
But I mean, I just love this, like the in-person quality of, or the person to person, whether it's virtual or literally in person, but also this like, this idea of like being there. I just also heard like in significant moments with someone as they're having an experience and having helped facilitate that to one degree or another. But then being present for that moment, I think that's really incredible. Wow. Is that one of the things that drew you into the teaching world? And then also having a practice, was that part of it for you, or?
I think I hadn't figured that out as I entered it, you know, like I think that's something that I've been teaching 6 years, which is a long time, but also isn't a long time at all. Like it's very nascent in a sort of academic career, let's say. And I think that what I now know is that in sort of a creative and arts realm, if you didn't go to art school for undergrad, or you didn't have like, you know, the art teacher who like encouraged you on, you know, in younger years, I was always very acutely aware of, wow, what would it be like to have a creative support that was sort of there, constantly present, like unrelentingly supportive, also could have the hard conversation in a way that was loving. And so I think on some unconscious level, I knew that I was pursuing that, but also a criticality, being able to have the tough conversation to be better because I loved a thing. And so I think probably when I was getting my graduate degree, it was the first time that I was really, because again, I didn't go to art school for undergrad, where I was exposed to professors of design, and you know, and they all had different opinions and they had different entry points, and some of them, you know, had different bedside manners, and some you wouldn't go to for support and some you would. But I think in a way I either am and or became and or some hybrid of both the person that I needed and wanted in my creative, let's say nascent creative being. And so there was a way, again, over time, and that I believe that I have become that for other people. And I think it's sort of a very similar skill set. So I think even with mess work, it's like I believe that I'm working with people's creativity constantly, even if that's not what we're in the session for. You know, if you think about it from an energy and consciousness point of view, or from a movement point of view, or if we think about creativity as a life force or whatever, like it's working with that in some specific way. And so over time, I think students have started to seek me out for that thing, you know, where they They know I can have the like, are we going to have the tough conversation about this because everything that you're saying is amazing that's not quite translating, or you know, where are we getting blocked or stuck here, or what is your intention with this, or what are the values, so that you can, you know, that you have enough of a relationship to have difficult conversations, but you also have someone there, and I don't like this analogy, but like kind of to be the cheerleader, or like the person on the sides, like who, and not in a performative way, like, you know, I think there's a way with when you spend time with your students and really get to know them and they start to share themselves with you, there's a generosity there, and there's like a baked in, of course you want them to succeed to the best of their ability, and you're going to do everything you can with boundaries and within reason. I think my rule is like, I'll meet you, if you meet me halfway, like I'm there 100%, you know? And sort of like I will say the responsibility and the weight of that, which I think is significant, but also wild beauty that comes from that too. And the same is true for my clients, it's just a slightly different context.
Right. So how did the name Messwork
That's a good question.
come to be? Because I love
Yeah.
it. I'm
Thank
like,
you.
oh, that's brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, I think so. The honest answer is that once I started, it's 2.5 years old now. Yeah, a bit over. So when I knew I was starting a practice, I started working on the practice that I was going to begin about 1.5 years prior to that. So I guess in that way, it's been in my brain for about 3 or 4 years. And I had sort of a 6-month period where I was just like writing everything down that could possibly be the thing, you know, and there were like a lot of almost things. And I think there was probably 2 months where I bought 14 domains. I'm like, it's maybe going to be one of these. And then and then I think the thing that stood out to me the most, which was the beginning of the entry point, was that I was very clear that what I was doing was work. So in my own therapeutic journey as a client, and then my own therapeutic journey as a student, right, in a secondary program that I did for 4 years. So there was this, you know, perhaps not obsessive, but sort of like an insatiable curiosity and a need to learn and a desire to figure things out in an embodied, hands-on, sort of like tactile knowledge, wisdom kind of way. And that this work, which I know that you have some experience in too, is not for the faint of heart, and it's not, you know, sitting on a comfortable sofa once a week or twice a month with a person. It's a life work. And so I think which I've always felt and always known, but I hadn't quite framed the work to myself as a life work, and then as a thing that you do all the time, every day.
Right.
So
which reminds me of the way you described the thesis work.
Yes, exactly.
That your grad students are doing, which I know you obviously did yours,
Yes.
of course, yourself, but then now are helping others with.
Yes.
Also as a life work,
Absolutely.
whether they know it or not, or
Yes.
whether the person in it is fully aware of that, doesn't necessarily need to even be the case.
Correct.
For it to be still effective. But
Yeah.
but that ultimately that's like a processing through of like, what do I think about this, or what do I have to say about that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I think
So I
that's a
hear that,
beautiful
like
parallel.
that life work thing.
Yeah, and I think for the thesis, it's like usually it's the beginning of the life work, you know?
Ah, yeah.
And some, it's like they've been doing it quietly the whole time, but they didn't really know. But so the work across both was explicitly clear, and I think then what became also very clear in both realms is that it's incredibly messy. It's nonlinear, it's fragmented, it's painful, it's disorienting, it's beautiful, it has all the things. And I think particularly in a therapeutic or therapeutic adjacent realm, we tend to, when we think of like the visual language or the language that we use, it tends to be bright and sunny and there's a rainbow, and it's like, well, it's really, no, there aren't a lot of fucking rainbows all the time, right?
Right.
Like you have to kind of, you have to go through mud and pain and bleakness and those things. And I think when we tend to speak about them, we talk about them diagnostically, but we don't talk about it as like, the thing that you're choosing to do is actually really wildly courageous and really, really hard and a little bit insane sometimes, but crazy beautiful. And isn't it a mess? And so I think the mess is there as a counterbalance to the work, but then I also kind of created my own definition of what mess work is as I sort of hold it as a value system. And it's sort of, you know, how can we begin to put things in order through an artistic creation and labor? So there's like a labor to creating things, and there's a labor to reorganizing or reestablishing the architecture of something that's been broken, whether that's for a project or whether that's been your psyche through trauma.
Right. Wow. I've just been in this place. This is like, I'm like taking notes. I'm making notes on my jeans right now. Yeah. I love that. The labor.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
I think everyone should be paid to do therapy. I think
I think
you should be paid as a client to do it, frankly, because it's a service to humanity.
You're right. You're so right about that. I concur.
Thank you.
We
should work on that.
We should get on that. I'd like to get paid. Thank you very much.
And I think you should be paid to be a graduate student to do your work too.
Ooh, I like this. Okay, we're going to reorganize the system.
Everything is turning upside down.
Everyone's getting paid for doing therapy work and being a grad student.
There you go.
All right, I'm down. I agree. I concur. Yeah. Okay. So, and then so I also know that part of the mess work or adjacent to that is that you also work with people who are building practices of this kind.
That's right.
Similar. So was that always part of your vision for it, or did that come about as you were building your own? You're like, you know what? I could help other people build their practices.
Yeah, so I think this is where, I think when we were doing the infinity, you did infinity with your hands, and if you open my notebook, there are many infinities. And then for a while, I, was curious if it was a triangle rather than, because of the sort of third piece, which really just folds into two in a way. But this is so Messwork is my second business, right? And I've had two, and so I have an entrepreneurial spirit and have built two practices or businesses or whatever you want to call them, and have done those completely by myself. And there are students naturally who, when they're with their thesis, they're starting to cultivate their creative practices, some of which become something outside of just a thing that they do on Sundays as a hobby, right? Like, so some of them are looking to create their own ventures or their own design studios or whatever. So there's always a part of that that is baked into how I engage with them. And I'm teaching courses like design management. So it's like, how can we bring these things into sort of more of a practical context? And so,
oh, thank God.
Yes. Yeah.
Seriously, because I think,
yeah.
I mean, I just got to be like, whoa, thank you.
Oh.
Thank you. Because this is, I mean, that's been part of my challenge.
Yep.
Is because I'm like, I have intuitive ideas about, how to, I know the nuts and bolts of like how to do QuickBooks and things of that nature. And I got some of that just from my parents.
Yep.
And then I just, I have a head for it. And then at the same time, like, I have no effing idea, like how to
start.
Conglomerate all these things without flying off into those 50 different directions that I like to fly off into.
Yes.
So, yeah. And I think as a young student who's like about to emerge into the world and start a thing, like, where do you the internet is not your friend.
The internet is not
too many things out there.
Yes,
so.
Perhaps. And I think that the same is true for so for the equivalent for the Messwork offering is, I call that practice building, but it's the same. It's the same in either context, right? And with the when I first launched that offering with Messwork, first it happened to be folks who were in alternative health who were looking for specific support around building practices similar to mine or equivalent, because in many of the programs, whether you're getting an MSW or I don't know, you're doing a 4-year something in somatic experiencing or maybe a 6-month something. That you're not given any support around what it is to create your own independent practice, and most of those pathways are only for independent practices, right? Like, you're not getting a license as an LP or something. You're not going to be hired by a hospital or by an institute, and so there are these huge gaps in the market around, like, okay, this person has done this 4-year commitment, but has no idea as to how to establish something. And I think, sadly, the same is true, but it's shifting in academia, where it's like, well, we have to, we maybe are raising the next generation's plural of the most creative, critical thinkers on the planet, and oh boy, is that thrilling. But also we have to give them practical tools to be able to implement that into an ever-changing industry at a pace that is terrifying at times. So
right, I think, especially with AI.
Exactly.
The elephant in the room of all of that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because I mean, I don't know, I'm just random question. Like, I'm imagining, is there fear in young people that I mean, not that you can speak for all young people,
Sure.
I
Nope.
understand that, but in your observations or sense of just being in this universe of things, is there concern, fear, or how can I work with it or whatever around AI?
In context of career or just more broadly?
Just more broadly, but certainly in the career of like a younger person who's like, I'm in this field that could theoretically, some of it maybe perhaps be replaced with a machine, or my skill set of this kind could be done in 5 seconds by a machine. Is there concern, fear?
I think it's really interesting to see how, again, like within communication design, because it holds a lot. It holds graphic design. In the undergrad program, they have differentiations between like illustration, right, branding and messaging, things like that. So I think sometimes you'll hear naturally and appropriately more of a fear from the aspects of it that are more technically grounded, right? Like I'm illustrating a children's book, right? Where even though if you were to ask AI to illustrate a children's book, it may be like a children's book with some weird fingers in it or something, right? Like that I think the speed and the rapidity at which those skills are being generated, I think, especially younger generations, undergrad can have freak out moments, but I think also the ones that know what they do and know the value of what they do is like maybe there's a niche or there's a differentiation for them, and so they recognize, okay, yes, technically this machine can do this, but the way that I am with the client or the process, right? I think that's the thing that is a relief, is that we spend a lot of time on process, creating your own creative process, which is a way to distinguish how you are, what you do, how you show up, but also the output, right? So if someone just wants to have 8 illustrations done and they're interested in that and nothing else, then okay, maybe you're, as an illustrator undergrad student, you're worried about that. But I think the meaningful thing, especially with grad, which is again where I teach, and is because of so much of what we do is building this sort of critical discourse and literacy. There are many people who come in from design and arts backgrounds, but there are also many who don't, and we're actually spending a lot of time on trying to find ways to support people from multidisciplinary backgrounds to integrate. So like, yes, maybe they need some more technical support to enter, but that they're bringing like really brilliant wisdom from, I don't know, like the health sciences, et cetera. And so they're walking away with design criticism and an ability to to create argumentation through form and things like that. And those are things that AI currently can't do in the same way. So I think we're sort of indexing for, and not because of AI, this was something that was happening before it was an issue, right? But there are ways that they have a critical skill set that is not common in the industry, period. We think we're unusual in that as an institute, have a bit of an edge there. But that's also a way that I think they don't feel directly at risk. And I think many of them, if it's actually kind of the opposite, where they're integrated with it, and we're having to create some separation so that there's not such a full-on merge. And when they're starting to sort of form their arguments and themselves in a way critically, that we're making sure that, I'll speak for myself, obviously many professors handle this differently, but I'm sort of saying, if you're using the tool, get clear on how you're using the tool. Why are you using it? Under what circumstances are you having a dialogue about it because you're interested in conversational design? Great, that could be a beautiful, reason to use it. So I think it's more about intention setting, trying to slow things down, right, for them in their own decision-making process, and making sure that it's not giving them a voice critically that isn't theirs.
Right. Which feels like it goes back for me, at least, to that, we're working on this thesis. Ultimately, this is the beginnings of, whether you fully realize it or not, of a life work or a formulation of a viewpoint.
Yes.
At least in this moment of your development. It could shift obviously later. But this is your big articulation of what is it I'm trying to say or do or achieve or accomplish or create.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So being judicious about how do I, whatever tool it might be,
exactly.
quite frankly. Yeah.
Yes. The hammer or or clawed. It's the same. And I think it's sweet in a way with my cohort now, with my thesis cohort now. And interestingly, we've been looking at it in terms of translation, because there are lots of students who have, English as a second language. And so even if they write their thesis paper in their native tongue and then they put it into AI to translate, there's a way that they get lost in it. And it's been fascinating. For some students, even the difference between, literally writing it in their mother tongue with no assistance whatsoever, putting it into a Claude or putting it into a Chat GPT versus putting it into a Google Translate, they're two totally different universes, where one I can go, oh, I can still feel X or Y student here, and the other one there's this generic flattening that sort of happens. And so we've been breaking down this process in class of like, where do you get lost versus where does clarity come because of language, and obviously wanting tools to be made available when they're needed for language or other types of assistance, but for them to sort of recognize themselves that parts of them are being lost when the tools aren't being used appropriately, or there could be other tools that achieve the same thing.
Right. And this is where I feel like, again, I hear the mess.
Oh my gosh.
The messiness.
Constantly. Yes.
In the best possible sense of the word. Like,
yes.
It's complicated, it's complex, it's messy.
Yes.
Because it's not, it's not all bad.
No.
It's not all good.
It's a tool.
It's a tool, and it's just about how am I. But I love bringing the awareness to, like, where are you in it?
Yes.
Versus just giving oneself over to, and that could be really anything in life.
I agree.
Where am I in this whole thing?
Yes. I think I have a colleague, he and I have been having some conversations around this, and we're more leaning towards the anti in an educational context, and mainly because of sort of psychologically, socially, what happens, and even speaking about that, like opportunities to fail get taken away, right? Like these developmental things where you say the stupid thing at the party, and then you have to feel that, and putting yourself in a scenario where that's not happening, or like the digital equivalent is being taken away from you. I think especially in an educational context has a weight to it. But yeah, I think to each their own, and there's some projects that really need it and warrant it, but I think slowing it down, bringing the intention from the student level, and for them to experience what's lost or gained and kind of create an educated decision is cool to facilitate.
Well, and that kind of just brings me back to we had before I got us on the AI sidebar, but about teaching students process, and
Yes.
how that's connected to helping people building, whether it's a practice of one kind or another, how to what process to kind of use to build that, which is your practice building division. I love it. The prof has divisions, y'all. This lady is on it.
Oh, thank you.
Wow, I love this. All right, so I think we're nearing the end, Cree.
Okay.
Not
Thank
because
you.
I couldn't do this all day.
No, it's a pleasure.
Because I could talk about. I mean, we didn't even talk about like when I got it, all of this whole time in my head, I kept thinking about media literacy, because that was one of my big things when I was getting my master's degree all the way back yonder in the early 2000s.
Amazing.
But it was all about, it's like maybe an early incarnation of some of these things in terms of, do we even know how this image or text or a piece of paper has been put together to get me to see a certain thing?
Absolutely.
Or think a certain kind of way.
Yes.
So let's deconstruct and give people the tools to do that.
Yes.
That was my big thing at the time.
Oh, media literacy, Noam Chomsky, and even, overly reference all the time, but Roland Barthes, the rhetoric of image, of just, at the entry point of what is an image, what is text, how do they relate to each other, what are symbols, what are semiotics, like what's happening, right? And then how that ties in so beautifully and scarily sometimes to the psychological, which is not, coincidental. Right. So these, if we're working with mental images, they come from something physical at some point, usually.
Yeah.
So yes, I didn't realize that was part of your beginning.
Well, and one of the things that I remember for some random reason, like that stood out to me was, with television, this like, at the time, the internet was barely a thing. So the television was still the big reference point.
Yeah.
But how it was used, and shows were used to help people know how to live in the suburbs.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating.
In some ways.
Yeah.
Like a lot of those shows were like, this is how you live in
like
suburbs.
wayfinding.
Yeah. Because it's like, leaving urban centers, or leaving rural communities now in these burbs was a new phenomenon.
Yes.
So at that time, a lot of the programming
Instruction manual
was basically like, this is how it looks to live in the suburbs. Anyway, so I thought that was fascinating.
Yes.
All right, so if you were to go back in time,
Okay.
warp speed backwards
Okay.
to some previous time, what would you say would be the one thing you would give your younger self as I don't know, maybe a wayfinding, or just say, hey, heads up, you don't know this right now. I now know this because I've been doing this for a while. So just, you may not use it, but just FYI.
Yeah.
Here's this one thing.
Well, I think maybe it's the one thing that holds many things, because that's what we've been talking about today. But I think it's probably something like the things that you're curious about, and the things that you're making, and the things that you, on some level, really know that you know, and that sometimes you doubt that you do. You do know them, and listen to them and follow them, and allow yourself to be the seemingly fragmented, messy version of that thing, because it's part of a process that maybe to the average eye is not discernibly something, but it is a something that's specific to you, and there's a sense, you're making sense. It makes sense. So I think you've got the thing right, follow it. It's going to be messy. It may not seem like it's making sense, but that you're building towards something that does, something like that.
Right. Oh, I love this. Yeah, I think that's great. I'm going to use that.
Lovely. Great.
I'm gonna take that as my one thing for today.
Beautiful.
Hella, when you go back to the house, just, it's gonna make sense tomorrow or next year.
Or 60 years.
Or in 6 years. We don't know, but it's making sense now, whether
Yes.
you know it or not.
Yes.
I love that. I'm totally taking that. All right, well, Cree, okay, are you gonna start any other ventures?
Yes, actually, I'm starting definitely one, if not 1.5 right now. So I'm happy to chime in about those quickly.
Yes.
But I think the
Please.
most, maybe the most pertinent one in service of our conversation is I am starting what I'm currently calling a living archive for Messwork. And it is working at the bang center of our infinity that we were making there, where, I'm fortunate with my client body that often they are asking me for resources. And there are books that I have read, and there are books that I'd want to recommend, but I find it dissatisfying, to say the least, to say, buy this book that's kind of nerdy and psychological and do all this labor, where in my personal research and like pedagogical and teaching work, we are creating bodies of knowledge constantly. And so I, for years, have had this feeling of like, I want nothing more than my thesis, the books of my thesis students to go to my clients, and how beautiful that would be for both. That the thesis students would have their work exposed to a clientele who would appreciate the work, and the clientele would have exposure to an art book, or really pieces of design or art to look at a challenging thing that they're facing in a non-obvious way. Like, for example...
I love this, like giving it non-words
yes.
expression.
Non-words expression, or not like, technological jargon expression. Like, so for example, I'm looking at some publications from a beautiful press called Gong Press, and the founders are friends of mine, and they very kindly are going to be contributing some works to the archive, which will be present both physically and digitally. But I was looking through these 2 publications in particular, one which is about a man who kept track of his fishing. He was fishing for years, and he kept diaries about fishing. And then they have these amazing diaries in sort of a container that looks like a fish tank. It's like this art piece, and it's like, okay, does it seem to make any sense that I'm going to bring in a book about practice of fishing into my psych practice? Like, maybe on the surface level, no, but everything that we do, deep sea diving, layers, something consistent, mapping, tracking, right? So there are these sort of natural affinities that want to be taking place, and I think that instead of providing clients with something that feels like homework, for them to be able to breathe in soft, gentle, poetic, beautiful, sometimes dark and startling things, and then also to bring my students' work, which, they work with me beautifully. They now get to select who they work with. So they're choosing a professor with whom they have affinity. And so their work naturally ties into, and then creating a platform for them, for their work ideally to be disseminated. So it'll be a combination of my own work, current student work, former student work, the work of colleagues, friends, mentors, notable folks in the industry to, one, develop a body of knowledge that's more accessible and is highly niche, but also to kind of create a circular economy, and I'm going to be operating that as a nonprofit. So any designers who contribute their work and are looking to sell it will keep 100% of their proceeds, and also the selfish part, it's a way for me to keep track of the things that I've had some part in, whether mentoring or teaching or collaborating with friends and things like that. And then also a resource that I would love to personally use
Yeah,
as
I'm
well.
like, sign me up.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I feel like a kindred spirit.
Oh.
Like never gonna rest on just like, yeah, I'm good. I'm doing this one thing. No. I'm doing these 3 things.
I sometimes feel like
Possibly
you might go
4.
ice skating or something. I'm like, maybe I can go. Like Hal would be the kind of person who would go, let's go ice skating.
Yeah, totally.
Let's buy skateboards and now learn how to do that.
Yeah. As long as we're not eating olives, I'm good.
Oh, amazing. I love olives.
Or mushrooms.
It's one of the only mushrooms I'm with you. Olives is maybe the one place we disagree.
It's the 2 things I'm like, yeah, I'll try anything pretty much, but not that.
Okay.
I've tried them and I decided I don't like them.
Not for you.
Not for me.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a random thing. But there we go. Okay. All right. So nonprofit, forthcoming. I love it.
Yep.
I will have all the links to your stuff
Amazing.
in the show notes,
Beautiful.
by the way, so people can find you,
Lovely.
find ways to work with you, read more about you, because this has been truly an infinity.
Oh.
I feel like we have
flow.
We have been flowing in through the infinity swirl.
Beautiful. Rather than what's the snake that eats its own tail? Ouroboros. We haven't been Ouroboros.
No, we have not been doing that.
We've been infinity swirling.
We have been infinity swirling. I love this.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Been a delight.
Pleasure.
And yeah, I'm sure there will be more to come. We will collaborate on some things.
Looking forward.
I feel it. I feel it beyond this, but for sure. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, dear.
Okay.
So.
Bye. OMG. Wow, 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 wow. Okay. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening to the Stories That Sparkle podcast. Thank you so much to Cree for joining me. I mean, whoa, 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 wow, wow, wow. I don't know what else to say, y'all. Infinity swirl, photo booth pictures, disco ball. I mean, what? Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, it was the perfect way to close out the series. So I will have all the links to all things Cree and all the different things she does. If you want to work with her in any capacity, if you want to learn more about all the different projects she's working on, the Living Archive, and also the one that she didn't really get into because I infinity swirled us into a different direction. In addition to the Living Archive, Cree is also working on a project called 330, 300, 3000, a durational psychosomatic inquiry into grief, repetition, rounds, and reconciliation. It's a blend of an inquiry into grief and performance as research work. So yeah, check that out. All the links to all of the things are in the show notes. So click on, sign up for, check out, all the things, y'all. Support this amazing, incredible woman, AKA my friend, AKA the prof, AKA just gorgeous, amazing human. I just love her. And thank you for listening to the Stories That Sparkle. Thank you for being here for the 4-part series, Becoming the Proof, 4 women who built the thing they needed to ensure it exists for others when they need it. And yeah, so whether it was a stage, a studio, a beverage, or a language, I mean, wow, what a span of things. And it just reminds me how beautifully varied we are and how so many different experiences in different ways just come together and really help me remember that A, I'm not alone, and B, there's proof of someone else who did it. So I know that I can do it too when my time comes to do the thing. So yeah, woohoo! If you're enjoying the Stories That Sparkle, please do me a small favor. pass it on to two people, and encourage them, invite them to download, rate, review, subscribe. You can also subscribe to my Substack, hellarator.substack.com. Get notified of every new episode being released, every Tuesday tidings that I publish that connects between episodes, on weeks, off weeks, all the things. And of course, most importantly, if you have a story you want to share, please go to hellarator.com/submissions. The new and improved, much shorter, much easier submissions form is now live. Fill it out, submit. Let's get your story recorded and get it out here into the world, because together we bring light into dark places.